You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, again, what we're dealing with in this country, white supremacy in so many different areas, but the nation doesn't really want to deal with those issues. Congressman Hakeem Jeffries had an opportunity to ask FBI Director Christopher Wray specifically about this issue with these violent white domestic terrorists. Watch this.
Why is the FBI generally reluctant to use the term violent white supremacy?
I think we use the term racially motivated violent extremism partly because we're trying to make clear to our people and everyone who's involved that our focus, that doesn't mean everybody else's focus, but our focus is on the violence. And so part of the reason we changed some of our nomenclature was to make especially sure that what's important to us, and it gets back to this idea that we have one standard. It doesn't matter what your motivation is or how abhorrent or despicable your motivation is, what we have to be focused on is the violence.
I understand that the violence is largely being driven by white supremacy as an ideology. If you don't name the problem and claim the problem, it seems to me that it's hard to tame the problem. That's why I'm raising this particular issue. In terms of domestic terrorism, I think you've testified in the past that this is a growing problem that we've experienced in America, correct?
Domestic terrorism? Absolutely.
That's correct.
Yes.
And I would argue that it is actually a problem that has been with us for centuries. We know that the KKK was founded in 1865. That's a terrorist organization. We know that the lynchings that took place in the 1800s and the 1900s were acts of domestic terror. The murder, the brutal killing of Emmett Till in 1955, that was an act of domestic terror. The bombings of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, which took place in 1963, that was an act of domestic terror, killing 4 beautiful Black little girls. This most recent January 6th instance, the attack on the Capitol that resulted in death and mayhem, was an act of domestic terror. And the through line through all of those instances is white supremacy. I hope that the FBI will use all of its resources to tackle this persistent problem. I yield back.
That's what you do, and that's what happens, Greg, when you have Black Caucus members trying to push the issue. As he said it, you got to name it. You got to name it and call it what it is. You can't say, oh, it's terrorism. No, no, no. It's white domestic terrorism, because trust me, if it was Muslims, they would be saying Muslims all damn day and demanding every Muslim leader in America denounce it.
Well, if they choose to stay in electoral politics and the demographics keep changing, I look forward to the day when Senator Turner or Senator Bush out of Missouri, or I guess they could do it on the House side now, pushed it a little farther than our friend and brother Hakeem Jeffries to remind us that state terror looks like the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which began with the racial conditions persecution of Marcus Garvey and attempts to destroy A. Philip Randolph and everybody else, and continued right on up through the counterintelligence program. But I know he's got to get right up to that line because Hakeem also has presidential aspirations. That having been said, the challenge we have is the same challenge as a through line, to talk about through lines. It's a through line between the FBI and the domestic area, the CIA internationally, and the military globally, which is white nationalism is not an outlying thing that's invading these institutions. It is the core of the way they were constructed. Now, I will agree with Senator Tom Land of Cotton on that regard when he attacks the 1619 Project by saying slavery was a necessary evil. That's how white nationalism views us. Our whole job is to try to fit into a structure. And when you've got outliers, that's when they will say, oh, well, maybe we should talk about these people. This is the bad apple theory. It's not a bad apple. It's a bad tree. Now, I don't know how we root it out, And Hakeem probably went as close as you can get without, getting a heart transplant from the aforementioned Congresswoman Bush, or perhaps the new to be Congresswoman Turner. But, for where he is, I guess that was pretty good. I give him a C.
Reese?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, white nationalism, white domestic extremist terrorism, all the stuff you want to call it, is a break the glass in case of emergency for white nationalism. And that's is the government working as designed. That's why Joe Manchin is against the For the People Act when he was an original co-sponsor of it. That's why he won't weaken the filibuster, have any reforms for it, even though previously he was for some small reforms. That's why Tom Cotton doesn't want the military learning about the true history of this nation. That's why Christopher Wray, who was appointed by Donald Trump, is going to call it racial terror. I remember when the Republicans were on President Obama's ass all day, every day. You need to call it radical Islamic terrorism. Radical Islamic terrorism. And that's all. He could call it anything else. He called it was not good enough. It had to specifically be radical Islamic terrorism. But when it comes to white domestic terrorism, white supremacist terrorism, they don't want to call a thing, because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to fall back on as the demographics continue to change. The January 6th insurrection was an insurrection for a democracy that is inclusive of all of us. Even though our votes are suppressed and they did everything they can to try to stop us from voting, it's about as inclusive as it's going to get, short of any kind of reforms the Democrats are able to ram through. But the reason why they're not that mad at it is because it's a break glass in case of emergency. Trump wasn't the emergency for them, but we have to be on the lookout for when they feel that emergency is coming. It could be in the next decade or 2 decades, but it's coming, and that's why they're not going to root it out.
And that's why you got to have members of Congress continuing to put the pressure on them to call it what it is, Georgia. And so for those of you who say this is no big deal, it is, because when you call it what it is, then you can direct resources to it, and you can't allow the game being played. The FBI, has announced they've already made 500 arrests tied to the January 6th insurrection. You got to call that thing what it is. That was white domestic terrorists attacking the United States.
Absolutely, Roland. And every decade, I feel like the language, it morphs into something different. And so what used to be KKK is now what? Make America Great Again, or now Save America, white supremacy, white nationalism, whatever you want to call it. It's fundamentally the same thing. It's fueled by the same principles and the same values. And you could say the same thing about the other side. When you look back at the civil rights era, affirmative action, and different components that were pushed back then to really combat and resist white nationalism, right? And so now, we have diversity, equity, inclusion. At every decade, every turn, we have new iterations, but fundamentally, it's the same principles. And so I believe that we are at a turning point in our nation where people who believe in white privilege, people who believe in white supremacy, whose identity is founded on that, whose political campaign was powered and funded by others who have those same fundamental beliefs, they are threatened. And most of them, we're seeing them act out in fear that when Black and other minority groups get a seat at the table, when we really start calling these things what they are, when we really get to the root of it and we're able to root it out, what are they left with? What are they left with in 20 years when the tables turn and the quote unquote minorities of this nation are the majority? What are they left with? Because they won't have white privilege. They won't have supremacy. They won't be above on any level in any industry. And so I think that what we're seeing is them really try to, fight against the tables turning. And there's really, in the next few years, nothing much that they can do about it.
Folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom, Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.